Welcome to my podcast. I'm Manjit Kaur Ruprai and I'm a narcissistic abuse recovery therapist. This podcast series is about telling the stories of victims of narcissistic abuse who have sent me their stories to share anonymously to make their voices heard. If you have a story you would like me to share about you, contact me via my website. This is a story about a woman who contacted me to share her story. Her name has been changed to protect her identity and whoever else I may mention. I'm going to call her Kathy and her partner James. This is her story. Kathy first met James in her early 20s when they used to work together, and at the time he was newlywed. Kathy always liked James and had a thing for him, but things had never gone anywhere between them. He was married and she knew he was someone else's, but she always felt that she would like to be with someone like him. There was something about his smile, laugh, wit, and the way he talked about his new wife. He spoke about his wife with kindness, charm, love, and like she was his soulmate. Kathy admired him for this and thought that when she gets married, she would want her husband to treat her that way. Eventually, Kathy met her boyfriend through James, who was a colleague at their work. James's mother-in-law and his wife even rented a room in Kathy's then boyfriend's apartment. Kathy and her husband's romance started at that same apartment James and his wife used to live in. Kathy's life continued with her marriage, and she moved job and lost touch with James over the years. Throughout the years, Kathy thought about James and what happened to him and where he was and how life looked for him. She had heard he became a CEO of a big company and he was doing very well, but Kathy never saw James or communicated with each other in over 25 years. After years of being married, Kathy's marriage broke down and there was a very high conflict divorce. Although this can still be challenging, she was finally able to breathe and find herself. Kathy's life carried on. It began innocently, as most love stories do, with a simple connection request on LinkedIn. She hadn't heard from James in 25 years. Kathy was very surprised and excited to hear from him. She still carried the memories of them in their 20s, young and innocent, working together, and those were warm memories of friendship and Kathy's admiration for him. He was a part of her youth and she felt nostalgic as they were the good days in her life, not like her rocky marriage. Kathy had become successful as a marketing executive and was fascinated by James's impressive portfolio on his LinkedIn. He looked like the same handsome man. The messages started innocently. James sympathized with Kathy's divorce and told her he knows how difficult it was for her. He was very, very sweet and empathetic. James messaged Kathy that his first marriage didn't survive and that he had remarried. Kathy felt shocked, as in her 20s they were the couple she admired and she wanted a marriage just like James and his wife. James went on to tell Kathy that he is unhappy in his second marriage as he does not feel that his wife is paying attention to him, meeting his needs, and was too focused on their young children. Kathy thought this was a strange thing to say, but she didn't think too much of it. She felt bad for him as she had ended a difficult marriage where there was so much shaming, blame shifting, infidelity, and her ex-husband not meeting her needs. Kathy also learned that James had moved to another state that was a 5-hour flight from her. As days turned into weeks, their interactions grew more frequent. What started as innocent messages and a catch-up on their past soon turned into lengthy emails, texting, and phone calls. Kathy found herself drawn into James's confidence and charm. Kathy was beginning to fall for James. It was not ideal as he was married and lived 5 hours away. But despite all of this, she decided to go with the flow and see what happens. On reflection, Kathy realizes that James moved super quickly. Within a short amount of time, texting and talking to one another, he asked Kathy if he can call her baby. Kathy felt a little flutter in her heart as she had liked him for the past 25 years. She quickly agreed to him calling her baby. She looks back and realizes that he love-bombed her. She felt vulnerable at the time of reconnecting with James and was not in the best of headspace, even though she felt she was. She felt comfort in reconnecting with a familiar face, but really wishes she hadn't. Their simple encounter on LinkedIn and what started off as two friends connecting with one another soon turned into a full-fledged relationship. James told Kathy he had always liked her. She smiled as she had never known this. He looked so happy with his first wife when she had known him. She felt that this was fate and they were meant to connect and be together after so long. Kathy was falling for James as they talked and texted all day long. One day, James told her he would want to have a baby with her. Kathy felt overwhelmed and flattered. She was unsure if she wanted children, as she already had children with her ex, and parenting with her ex-husband was already a challenge. Kathy had been single since her divorce a few years ago. She was not seeing anyone, and James's unstoppable attention was playing on her ego. She had not felt like this for years, and she had forgotten what it was like to feel wanted. Kathy felt he might be that one and only one, and they were meant to be together like some twisted love story. As James and Kathy shared their common youth, he started to tell her that she was the love of his life and that he had always loved her, but he had been too afraid to tell her in case she didn't like him. He was afraid of being rejected by her and how he would have been heartbroken if that had happened. Kathy felt he was being genuine and could feel the sadness in his voice, but she now knows how he put on this act. He would have been highly skillful to make her believe these lies. James even told Kathy her ex-husband was horrible and that he will never do anything like that to her. Kathy had opened up to him about their rocky marriage and how difficult co-parenting is with him. James told her he will fight for them to be together. Even though Kathy knew James was married, she genuinely thought that he might be leaving his wife for her, as he told her he was so unhappy and he no longer wants to be married. Their communication was consistent throughout the day and night as they texted and called one another. Often he would FaceTime her for hours from the bathroom of his house, and she always wondered where his wife was. When she would ask about his wife, he would tell her that she is in the bedroom watching TV and not interested in him. The weeks of constant texting and calling and video calling soon turned sexual, and James wanted non-stop sexting, telling her that he connects with women through intimacy. Kathy was lonely, and she had not been intimate with anyone for years. She felt lonely, raising 2 children alone and keeping 2 jobs, and she had no time for real dating. Kathy wanted intimacy too, even virtually. She would take it. Kathy and James communicated like this for about 6 months. James promised to come to see Kathy in her city, but every time something would come up for him and he would make an excuse, he never did come to see her. As their love continued to deepen, so too did the shadows lurking beneath the surface. Unbeknown to Kathy, James had a darker side to him, a desire for control and manipulation, masked by charm and charisma. She noticed this one day when all of a sudden his demeanour changed. Kathy asked to see James as they had been talking for so long and they expressed love for one another. She asked him to make plans to come and see her in her city. This irritated James, and this is when his mask slipped off and he showed his true colours. He wrote to Kathy out of the blue that he does not want communication with her any further and that all of her messages go to spam and he is not reading them. He accused her of going after a married man and that they were just virtual and they never even had real sex. His compliments changed into criticism and he was nasty. Kathy was alarmed as she had never seen this side to James and didn't think he could be like this. Kathy begged for some forgiveness, but now looking back she is unsure why, as this was not her fault. She noticed that James had blocked her on email, LinkedIn and other social media. Kathy was devastated and she could not sleep and her body was aching. Kathy ruminated over and over and couldn't figure out what happened and why he was so mean to her, because he had told her hundreds of times he loves her. She felt like this for weeks and weeks, and the rumination and sleepless nights continued. Kathy eventually snapped out of it, but she is unsure how she recovered. But when she almost forgot about him, he returned. Weeks later, James unblocked her and sent a message that he can't live without her. He love-bombed her and he returned. He promised Kathy he will be coming to her city on business and finally they will be able to see each other after 25 years in person and talk everything through. James was telling the truth and he came on a business trip to her city a few weeks later and they spent 2 days together. Kathy felt it was the best time she had had. It was great and the connection was amazing and the intimacy was fantastic. Kathy dismissed his behaviour and just thought this was a bad patch in the relationship and everyone goes through this. Instead of showing him the door, she took him back. They toured the streets of her city like lovers and there was so much warmth between them. He said that he will do anything for them to be together. James even started to talk about possibly buying an apartment in her city so they can spend time together there. After James left, their communication continued and they would spend hours together through virtual sex or just texting throughout the day. He would spend hours sitting in his bathroom texting and FaceTiming with her. At the back of Kathy's mind, she could not help but wonder where his wife was and why she is not surprised that her husband was in the bathroom for hours. While talking with Kathy, he was drinking every night. Often this will be a bottle of whiskey per night. Kathy began to wonder if he has an alcohol addiction. Kathy's son was staying for a couple of weeks in the summer with a friend in James's city, and Kathy told him that she will be coming to visit her son and that would there be a chance for them to see each other. At first James was excited as he made plans of what they would be doing together and that he cannot wait to see her. But she arrived and he never met her. He made up a story that he needs to be with his family on vacation. Kathy was very upset with him and he blocked her once again without any explanation of what she had done wrong. During the discards, she stressed so much that her hands would go numb and she wouldn't be able to sleep and would cry all night. She would email him and message him and beg for forgiveness, but she would get no response. At first, Kathy dismissed his behaviour as she thought it would be stress-induced from his marriage and highly pressurising career. But then she began to believe otherwise. However, she believed in the power of their connection, convinced that love would conquer any obstacle. Yet, as time passed, James's actions became increasingly toxic. James would come back to her every few months, and the emotional swings would continue. There were several discards like this, where she would block him everywhere and he would reappear again months later. James would use burner phone numbers to get connected to her again. If she didn't reply after months of his disappearance and him reappearing, he would contact her on all of her email addresses he knew. Every day, numerous messages of him begging her to take him back. Kathy was caught in the web of James's manipulation and struggled to reconcile the charming man she fell in love with and the tormentor he had become. She fluctuated between moments of his toxicity and submission, torn between her desire for love and her fear of abandonment. As the toxicity of their relationship reached its full peak, Kathy found herself at the crossroads. She could continue down this path of self-destruction, sacrificing her dignity and self-respect for the illusion of love, or she could break free from James's grip on her, reclaiming her independence and paving a new path forward. However, she wasn't ready to let go just yet, so she hoped for the best, even though she knew there was nothing to hang on to. She had hope that he would change. She still had a fantasy image of James with his first wife, but now she wondered why the marriage had fallen apart. The ups and downs with James continued for almost 5 years. She could not believe she had invested 5 years into James and put up with his lies and tumultuous behaviour. The final discard happened 5 years later. James moved to London with his family, but he reconnected with her again after a few months, just like he always did. It was the same thing that she had heard many times, that he loves her. Only she can understand him. They are soulmates. No one gives him good sex as she does. No one makes him as hard as she does. No one knows him as good as she does, and so on. Kathy decided to give James one last chance. After he pleaded with her to take him back, Kathy had a business trip to London, and she told him that she will be in the same city as him and asked him if they can meet. James made plans to meet Kathy for lunch. When she arrived into London, he stood her up and cancelled lunch without any explanation whatsoever. Not only did he stand her up, he also blocked her for the 100th time. Kathy did her business trip and left London without hearing from James, and there was no way she could reach him. She was deeply hurt by this, but it was like she was used to this, as he had done this to her so many times. Like with all the other times, it was just a matter of time until James reached out to her again. Then a month later, he sent Kathy a message saying that he was afraid to meet her and that he wanted sex with her, but was afraid to face it, and that he is afraid of her reactions on everything. She had no idea where this was coming from and what he meant. She tried to hold him accountable for his actions, but the text circled round and round to the same thing. James tried to play the good, caring guy once again and tried to victimize himself. Kathy was becoming fed up of this, and it was 5 years of hell. She couldn't stand him and had lost all interest in him, so she blocked him. Even though Kathy couldn't stand him anymore, months later, she began to miss him. Kathy felt lonely as it was December and Christmas was approaching. Everyone was happy around her and there were a lot of couples. Kathy couldn't help but wish the same for herself. In her loneliness, she reached out to James to wish him happy holidays. She didn't expect a response back, but James responded in a cold manner. James texted her to say he does not want her cycles of up and down. In that moment, Kathy realized that he was projecting onto her. He was the one with the cycles of abuse. He went on to say that he is afraid of her and wishes not to stay in contact anymore. His mask fell off completely, and he had shown his true colours. Kathy felt like James treated her like garbage and like she had no value. She felt he gained some pleasure in treating her this way. There was no love at all and no friendship or real connection. There was nothing. Kathy felt objectified and used for sex and that she had fed his ego. Kathy felt deceived and lied to. Kathy lived in this imaginary life for 5 years and still lived in this imaginary world all those years and still wonders how she got there. Even though Kathy was deeply hurt by James, she had clarity and she had made the choice that even if James contacted her again, she would not reply. With trembling hands, Kathy composed a final message to James to say her peace of mind. She wanted her independence back and not to live in this chaos. She severed the ties with James and blocked him once and for all. After months of being free from James, she was finally beginning to find herself. In the aftermath of their parting, Kathy has embarked on a journey of self-discovery, rediscovering her worth and really looking at what healthy relationships look like. Kathy has become more stronger and more resilient than before. She vowed never again to allow the law of love to blind her to the warning signs of abuse and manipulation. She never heard from James again. Thank you for sharing your story, Kathy. I am sorry you had to go through 5 years of game playing. Please like and share. If you have a story to tell, email me via my website. Thank you for tuning into this episode.